previous video, I showed you how to design a knife. In this video, I'm going to show you how to take that drawing to an actual piece of steel just before the heat treating process. So all the steps in between from the design till the heat treating process. If you didn't watch the previous video, make sure to go and watch the other videos so you understand how you should design your knife and take it from a piece of paper till the very last step until heat treating. So without further ado, let's get into it.
In this video, I will be making a custom biltong knife for a client. The steel I'm going to use is N690 stainless steel and it is 4mm thick. The first thing you want to do is cut out your template that you've drawn that I showed you in the previous video how to do. Usually use a razor blade to cut out the template first. Then I get some scissors and cut it closer to the line so I have the perfect replica of the knife I want to make. Just as a side note, I bought new steel the other day and I was shocked on what the steel prices became. After I cut out the template, I use some spray adhesive to stick the template to my piece of steel. The only reason I stick my template to my piece of steel is to get an exact outline of my template when I spray it with some spray paint. After the spray paint has dried, I peel off my template so that I can reuse it again later in the build. Then I proceed to use my scribe and draw some rough lines on where I need to cut with my angle grinder. Layout lines is one of the most important things about knife making, so you need to get comfortable with scribing a lot of lines. Next, I use my angle grinder to cut out the piece of steel, making sure to keep the steel as cool as possible and after every cut cooling it off in water again. After doing the first few cuts with my angle grinder, I proceed to draw more layout lines to get closer to the final shape of the knife. After I'm happy with how the cuts went with the angle grinder, I then go and take off all the burrs with the 120 grit sandpaper on my disc sander. Once again, I will use my spray paint and template to get an outline of the knife so that I can grind the knife to its final shape. I use a 60 grit belt to do most of my material removing. It is a little bit slower than a 35 grit or a 30 grit belt, but I prefer the 60 grit because there's a lot smaller chance of me making a mistake and over grinding the knife. After I'm finished grinding my knife down to the final shape, I use blue layout to mark out where I want the holes of my knife to be drilled. I like to put my holes 5mm from the edge of the knife. I prefer the look of it. You can put it deeper or shallower, but I prefer 5mm from the edge of the knife. Where you put your pins on the knife doesn't really matter because the pins are mostly there for decorative purposes. The glue is plenty strong enough to keep the handles intact, but the pins give reassurance and a little bit of style to the knife. I use 2.5mm stainless steel pins. Once again, it doesn't matter how thick the pins are because they are there for aesthetic purposes. After I've drilled all the holes, I will make sure my pin fits through the holes. After heat treating, it's going to be a headache when the pins don't fit through the hole. So that is my entire process before the heat treating. If you like this video, please subscribe to my channel for more videos on how to make better knives. If you haven't watched the previous video on how to design your own knife, go and watch that video for a little bit more context. So this is it for the video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.